Imagine a time before America was truly America. The year is somewhere in the late 1700s. The place is a rough-hewn log cabin on the edge of the wild frontier. This area would one day be called Kentucky. A settler, tired from a long day of clearing land, pours a drink. A close-up, deep amber liquid gleaming in firelight. He raises a simple clay cup and takes his first sip. This is not just whiskey. This is something new. The taste of a new nation being born. It is a spirit made from the corn that grows in his fields. It will become a symbol of America itself. This single sip represents a much larger story of survival, innovation, identity. For early settlers in Kentucky and in Virginia, making whiskey was a necessity. Streams could be dangerous, often carrying disease. Distilling killed the harmful bacteria. Whiskey was safe. It also preserved crops. Corn was plentiful, but bulky and hard to move over the Appalachians. Turning corn into whiskey made it valuable and portable, a barrel as currency. A farmer could carry his harvest in a barrel instead of a wagon. This act of turning grain into spirit founded an industry. We call this the first sip timeline, a journey back in time. We'll trace bourbon's first chapter, the people, the places, the dates. Many myths surround bourbon's origins. Some credit Elijah Craig, others point to different figures and places. The truth is more complex. Many people, over many years, perfected it. This timeline separates fact from fiction. Our goal is simple: find bourbon's real beginnings. Where did it truly start? Who were the first distillers and what did they use? How did a farm-made spirit get its name? We'll travel back to the late 1700s, explore Kentucky and Virginia, meet the Scots, Irish, and German immigrants, and see how fertile soil, abundant corn, and limestone water shaped bourbon. To understand bourbon, we must start at the very beginning. Our timeline begins after the year 1763. This was when settlers started pushing west. They crossed the mountains into what was then a vast, untamed wilderness. These were hardy people. They were farmers, they were hunters, they were adventurers. They brought with them their traditions, including the art of making whiskey. In their old homes, they had made spirits from rye. They had made spirits from barley. But in this new land, they found a different grain that grew everywhere. That grain was corn. This simple switch from Old World grains to New World corn was a critical first step. The late 1700s were a time of great change. America was fighting for its independence, and on the frontier, settlers were building a new society from scratch. Between 1775 and 1780, farms spread across the Ohio River Valley. Families cleared forests to plant their crops. Corn was the easiest thing to grow. It produced high yields. Soon, every small farm had a surplus of corn. They also had a small still. Distilling became a common household chore, much like baking bread, much like churning butter. This wasn't a business yet. It was a way of life. We will meet figures like Evan Williams. He set up one of the first commercial distilleries in Louisville around 1783. We will examine the claims about Elijah Craig and the famous story of him charring a barrel. We will look at the real historical records. These records show who was paying taxes on their stills in the 1790s. We will explore the places that gave bourbon its identity, especially Bourbon County, Kentucky. We will follow the barrels of whiskey, down the Ohio River, down the Mississippi River, to the bustling port of New Orleans. It was on this journey that the whiskey from Bourbon County earned its name and its reputation. This is the story of how a local farm spirit began its transformation into America's native spirit. On almost every small farm across the Kentucky frontier, you would find a still. It was as common a piece of equipment as a plow. They were small, simple pot stills, often made of copper. It consisted of a heated pot to boil the fermented mash and a coiled tube known as the worm. As the alcohol vapor rose and traveled through the cold coil, it would condense back into a liquid. This was the raw, unaged whiskey, clear as water and fiery in its proof. The process of making whiskey was woven into the fabric of daily life. After the corn was harvested, they were ground into a coarse meal, mixed with hot water. Yeast was added. For several days, this mixture would bubble away, as the yeast consumed the sugars and produced alcohol. It was a source of calories, a social lubricant, and a trusted medicine. In a world without modern medicine, whiskey was a universal remedy. While the still shaped the basic character of the whiskey, it was the barrel that transformed it. Distillers soon realized that storing their whiskey in these charred barrels had a remarkable effect. The raw, clear, and harsh spirit went into the barrel and came out months later as a smooth, colored, and flavorful liquid. The charring process creates a layer of activated carbon. This charcoal layer acts as a natural filter, stripping out impurities. This is the first step in the maturation magic. Subtraction. The intense heat also caramelizes the natural wood sugars. The whiskey pulls out wonderful flavors of vanilla, caramel, toffee, and honey. This is the second step of maturation. Addition. Finally, the barrel allows the whiskey to interact with oxygen. This slow, patient breathing allows the flavors to marry and mature. In the early 19th century, a new kind of innovator emerged. The most important of these figures was Dr. James C. Crowe, hired to work at the old Oscar Pepper distillery. Crowe was not content with the old ways. He wanted consistency and quality control. One of his biggest contributions was perfecting the sour mash process. He would take spent mash from a previous distillation and add it to the new ferment. This did two things. It adjusted acidity to suit the yeast, and it discouraged the growth of unwanted bacteria. The result, consistent fermentation and a reliable, uniform flavor from batch to batch. He was obsessed with distillery hygiene. He used instruments, the thermometer and the hydrometer, to measure precisely. His whiskey, Old Crow, became famous and sought after. His scientific approach moved bourbon from folk art to industrial science. In 1791, the Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, proposed a solution: a federal tax on all distilled spirits. For the farmers on the western frontier, it felt like a betrayal, an unfair burden on their way of life. The reaction on the frontier was immediate and furious. This anger soon boiled over into open revolt, known as the Whiskey Rebellion. President George Washington himself led a militia force of nearly 13,000 men to quell the uprising. The Whiskey Rebellion had a lasting impact. Many distillers in Pennsylvania decided to move and headed south and west into Kentucky. This migration brought even more skilled distillers into the region, strengthening its identity in Kentucky. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 changed everything. It opened a secure, permanent trade route for Western distillers. The War of 1812 disrupted trade routes. Imported rum and brandy was cut off. Americans sought a domestic alternative. Kentucky bourbon was perfectly positioned. The river trade exploded. Bourbon barrels powered that boom. As the whiskey business became more competitive, distillers needed a way to make their product stand out. The most successful distillers began to put their own names on their barrels. This was the very beginning of branding in the bourbon industry. A barrel marked Old Crow meant a consistent, high-quality product. They were willing to pay a premium for that reliability. The success of early brands led to a new problem: fraud. This threatened both the customer and the honest distiller. Distillers began calling for government intervention. These calls for reform planted the earliest seeds of the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897. By the middle of the 19th century, all the essential elements were in place. The techniques were refined, the major brands were established, and a robust commercial network had carried bourbon's fame across the nation. The wild, pioneering days were over. The stage was now set for the next act in bourbon's drama, a battle for its very soul and the rise of the great bourbon dynasties. The first chapter was complete, but the story of America's native spirit was far from over. Like, comment, and subscribe.